Welcome to the Cold Calling 101 Appointment Setting YouTube channel presented by the Capone Performance Group. My name is Barry Capone. I am the founder and president of CPG, and I will be your host on these videos. This particular video will cover the question, what makes the Cold Calling 101 solution different, and probably more importantly, what makes it work as well as it does. But before I go into that, let me make a statement. I don't want to be presumptuous enough to think that we are absolutely the only solution out there. We certainly think we're the best, but here's my challenge to you. What I'd like to suggest is you go through, watch this little video, and at the end of the video, if you think that we're a good match for your situation, give us a call. Let us have the opportunity to spend some time with you and determine how we could help you and how we've actually helped other companies with this challenge. But if you don't think so, that's okay too. But here's what I would suggest. Make sure you go find somebody and apply what they teach and apply what they preach, because we believe there's really no better way to proactively control our own destiny than to make more effective appointment making calls. And the reason for that is there's a direct correlation between the number of dials we make and the size of our paycheck. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? We really believe that there are two reasons why we are different and why we are better than the approaches that we compete against out in the marketplace. And the first one of those reasons is we take a comprehensive approach to the challenge. And what I mean by that is we look at not only the effectiveness of what do you say, how do you say, and when to say it to get an appointment, but we also look at the efficiency side of things. We believe that if you are an outside sales professional, you really and truly can't spend more than an hour, maybe 90 minutes a day on the phone setting appointments if you also have to go on those appointments, if you have to prepare for those appointments, if you have to prepare proposals and handle sales and all that kind of thing. There just aren't enough hours in the day. So the efficiency component, we believe, is just as important, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The effectiveness side of things is we also believe we're a little bit different in that I've got 21 books on my bookshelf that are dedicated to the concept and challenge of appointment making. Two of those are mine, so let me take those off the table here for a second, and let's talk about those other 19. They all have two things in common. The first one is they all totally 100% concentrate on effectiveness. They don't talk about the efficiency component. They don't even talk about the best practices that we're going to talk about in a lot of detail. The second thing is they have you focus an enormous amount of energy in creating this absolutely perfect value proposition that you start the call with. That the reason for my call is this great value proposition, and that you'll convince a lot of people to take a meeting with you. We believe that doesn't work, and here's why. There are two rules that our targets play by when we pick up the phone and call them. The first one is there just aren't enough targets in the market for what we're selling when we pick up the phone and call them. In other words, the odds of us finding people who woke up this morning thinking about what we sell and the fact that they needed it, so they're really happy when we call, that the odds of that are about zero. That means that they don't think they need to talk to us when we call. The second rule is that we're interrupting them from doing something so that they don't want to talk to us when we call. Ergo, they will do anything, including lie to us, to get us off the phone. Therefore, we don't think the call really starts until they say no. And what I mean by that is we have a technique in our methodology that is designed to stop people from thinking about how the heck to get us off the phone and open their minds to a conversation where we can apply our value proposition, where we can apply the skills we have in countering no's. Make sense? The second reason is that we've really studied this process. And not only have we studied it, but over the years we've continued to measure it and we continue to refine the process. And let me give you a couple of examples. First of all, we studied the market and looked at just about every kind of contact manager and CRM out there to figure out what was the best way to automate the process of reaching out to as many people as we can in as short a period as we can. We found a tool that was designed specifically for the appointment setting process. We benchmarked that against every doggone CRM tool you can think of, and contact managers like ACT, and we even brought in experts to fine-tune those tools, and we still the tool that we suggest and that we use will get you twice to 2.5 times the number of dials per hour, and that makes a significant difference. The other thing is that that tool also, and I'll talk about this in a minute, has the ability to measure so that we can refine some things, and I'll talk a little bit about that. The second thing is that on the effectiveness side of things, we did a lot of research before we really fine-tuned what we call our methodology, which is the appointment making formula. And the research we did, a lot of what we do is based on 3 things. One is research done by a guy by the name of Dr. Robert Cialdini. He wrote a book called Influence, and it's all about the compliance process. And what I mean by that is, what is the tendency of one person to comply with the request of another? He did an enormous amount of research on this, and he's got 6 principles, and we built a lot of that into our methodology. The second is a UCLA study that was done a number of years ago called the Law of Effective Communications, and we built that into our model. And the last one is the concept of neuro-linguistic programming, and some additional research done by a friend of mine, actually, a guy by the name of Jim Fortin. And that is all about the words we use are heard differently in the mind. The order of the words are heard differently in the mind. So we're all about reducing the risk of failure and increasing our percentage of success, even 1 to 2%, because when you start making a number of dials over the course of a year, it starts to build up and make a huge difference. So let's talk about the result, if you will. And the result is we go to market with the art, best practices, and science of appointment setting. And those 3 things, those 3 elements, if you will, impact both efficiency and effectiveness. And let me share with you what I mean by that. So art is all about effectiveness. That's all it does. That's what do I say, how do I say it, when do I say it, to get through to the person that I want to talk to, and then once I get them on the phone, how can I convince them that I've got a great solution and they need to invest some time with me and meet with me. Best practices actually impacts both efficiency and effectiveness. And best practices are all about kind of my rules of engagement, if you will. What's the systematic approach I'm going to make to my territory? What's the systematic approach I'm going to make to each target in my territory? And the concept is that we really only have so much time available to us, as I talked about a little while ago. So what is the best process to reach out to as many targets as I can to generate as many quality initial appointments as I can in like I said, a systematic manner. So for instance, we know that even when we get someone on the phone, we are not going to convince 100% of them to take a meeting with us. We certainly also know that when we pick up the phone, we're not even going to get through to them. Matter of fact, in a lot of cases, you won't even talk to a gatekeeper, you'll talk to voicemail. So the idea is, and I'm recording this in 2016, and one of my favorite sayings to my clients is, shame on us that if on the first business day of 2017 our territory is not warmer and it is not better defined, it's not better qualified than it was on the first business day in January of 2016. Let's use a process that makes our job easier as we go forward. And if you're a manager and you've got the challenge of turnover in your territories, you certainly want this, because you don't want the same or the second or subsequent sales professional to come into a territory and do a lot of the same things over again that the last person did, and because that's obviously very inefficient. The last of these things is science. And science really is all about efficiency. it is all about how can I make as many dials as I possibly can in as short a period of time. How can I navigate through these best practices that I define and keep track of where I am? And so the execution of each step obviously is as fast as it possibly can. But then to monitor, measure, and manage my process and my progress. Let me give you an example. Years ago, when we first started this back in early 2004, we had about a 22%, as a matter of fact, an exact 22% average of voicemails being returned. As time went on and the prevalence of voicemail became so dramatic, that percentage of returns, that ratio of returns started to drop substantially. As a matter of fact, a lot of our clients were seeing 5% or less. And so because we were able to see that, we were able to go in and refine the process. So now we're back up in that 15-20%. We're not quite where we were before, but I think that's just a sign of the times. But we've substantially changed and substantially re-increased how effective we've been. So let me wrap up by saying this. If you're like the majority of our clients, and understanding these differences maybe has opened your eyes a little bit to why we're a little bit better, why our approach is different than what you've seen. Maybe you've even opened your eyes to why your team's been struggling a little bit with this phase of the selling process. If you have, give us a call. We'd absolutely love to have the opportunity to share with you what we've accomplished for others and see if we can do the same for you. And thanks for listening and watching, and good selling to you.